Okay, y'all, it is 12 o'clock and we are going to go ahead and get kind of started. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker today, and other people will probably jump on as we get going. And I'm so excited. I think one of the greatest joys, and I'll probably say this 100 times, and you'll hear me say this so many times, is that we get to do this with a bunch of women all over the country, with different strengths, different personalities, different backgrounds. And we get to love each other well. So wherever y'all are in your sideline chats and your, accountability groups and things like that, that so many of those for us have been going on for, 7, 8, 9 years. And we have just gotten to watch each other go through the ranks and kind of ride the roller coaster of a sales organization and a business where people are welcome to come and go at will. And we get to really pour into each other's teams. And so today I get to have the privilege of introducing Brianne to y'all. And most people are fairly familiar with Brianne. And if you're not familiar with her by face and voice and name, you're probably familiar with something she has touched in our company, that our company has sent out, because Brianne has so strategically thought of a better way to do something. But even if you haven't seen that, I promise you something you have seen on our team page, or that we have put out just as field representatives for Plexus, has Brianne all over it. She is gracious enough to allow me to be a voyeur on her team page. So I get to see a lot of the things she does. I think what's so great, she's going to talk about this, but she's a farm girl from a small town. I don't even think you ever wanted to be a farm wife, but here you are. And, but the wisdom with which she does business is so incredible. So I think sometimes we're like, oh, small town, doesn't do corporate America, maybe doesn't have like a business savvy sense. And I just want to tell y'all, like, Brianne breaks all those molds, because there is so much strategy and business sense in the things that she does. And then she does them beautifully and she does them well. So I just think what I love is when we get to watch each other break what we think is the mold of who we want to have on our teams. And just her joy and her sincerity with which she does his business is so delightful. So I'm going to let Brianne tell her story for y'all, but I just want y'all to know that as leaders, we get to love each other and honor each other and respect each other so much. And this is someone that I honor and respect so much. So I'm so excited y'all get to hear from her. Brianne, take it away. It's all yours.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know if I can after that, Andrea. I am a 2 on the Enneagram. And so I just want us to all like sit around a circle right now and sing Kumbaya so I can cry through that, because if anybody knows how to edify people, and y'all know this because you are blessed to have her, it is Andrea. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I can't echo that enough. I want you guys to just stop wherever you are to start this off and just take in a huge, deep breath of gratitude for wherever you are at right now in your space, in your business, in your personal life. Just seriously, just breathe it in and let it out, and let out all of the stuff. I'm going to start this just telling you, I called my husband about an hour and a half ago. I just got off of my team's. We do like a little mastermind group noon, and I just got off of that. I called him just before, and I was like, listen, I don't know what's going on with me today, but I feel super anxious. It's not something that I experience a lot lately anymore. But I just feel super anxious and really unsettled right now. And I'm usually really good at rabbit trailing this stuff back. And so if you're in that space today too, it's okay, right? I think that the biggest thing that we can do for each other always is just to know life is 50% good and 50% bad, right? There's good emotion, there's bad emotion, there's all this other stuff that's going on, but the energy that we get to bring to the table, we get to choose. And so I think that it's always really important to just sit in that and to breathe it in, and to know that maybe if you didn't come to this call today as your best self, it's okay. You can leave as your best self, right? If you didn't start the day the way that you wanted it to, it's okay. We have a new chance tomorrow, God willing, right? There's always something that we can show up and do more of and be better with. But I also think that we owe ourselves every single ounce of just being okay. I have, like Andrea said, I grew up in a town with no stoplights. I live in central Pennsylvania. I like to describe myself as a person that basically lives and never said I would do. So I was going to move to a big city. I thought that that's where like my dreams needed to come true. I had all these plans mapped out for my life. I literally told my parents growing up, I will never date a dairy farmer. I won't live around here. Not going to do all the things. I had all these preconceived notions. Walked into my local county fair and basically started writing a country song. I didn't even like country music. But I met my husband in a dairy barn at the fair, and he started stalking me. He will tell you this for about 6 months. This is 20 years ago when ICQ was still a thing. If you guys remember ICQ, like the first forms of social media, right? Started stalking me while I was in college. And not in a bad way. Like, he's super cute. He's the most gentle man in the entire world. But I was like, no, sorry, not going to happen. It did. We have been married since, well, I think this is like 15 or 16 years now. We keep trying to figure it out. Sometimes we miss our anniversaries because that's just who we are. But then I had everything else mapped out. We were going to have 2 kids. We ended up with 3, huge blessing. I was going to teach for the rest of my life in school settings, become a school psychologist. Ended up resigning from my teaching job after just a few years because I was diagnosed with 4 different autoimmune disorders. In that same time span that I had been diagnosed with those, I had 3 kiddos in 3 years. And so when I say that God had other plans for my life, God had other plans for my life, right? The best things are often the things that we don't ask for and that we don't think that we need. And that's exactly where I found myself. And it was the hardest point in my life, rheumatoid arthritis. When my oldest daughter was 11 months old, I could not carry her up and down the steps. We crawled together. And I just started thinking that that was normal, right? So many of us, and even some of y'all today, maybe think that where you're at right now is normal, whether it's for your health, whether it's for your finances. It's just something that you're always going to be trapped in. And we have the opportunity within this to help people break those molds. It is the biggest blessing to be able to know that and to be able to own that. I had no idea where my life was going to end up. I spent about the next 3.5, 4 years trying to figure stuff out. My oldest daughter was also diagnosed in that same time span with anaphylactic allergies. Had a really scary episode, landed in the emergency room, and that led us on another trail. Over the next 3 years with her, she was diagnosed with over 30 different intolerances. Food labels became a part of our everyday life. And that was another reason that I ended up quitting my teaching job, because I couldn't put her in a daycare setting. And so I stopped, resigned, came home. We had 2 kids at that point. A week after I resigned, no insurance, had built a new house. I mean, we had all these things. It was like the perfect storm of not good things when I look back at this. But a week after I resigned from my teaching job, we found out that we were pregnant with my son. And so no insurance, no extra income, trying to have 5 people on a dairy farming salary, not lucrative at all. And so I had started a vinyl business. If you follow me on social media, I love party planning. I love doing all of the things. I love graphics. I love designs. And so I figured, if I love crafting and hobby stuff, I need the extra money for our family. And so I started an online Etsy shop, and I was selling vinyl decals. And I would do that after my kids went to bed at night. And it made a little bit of extra money to be able to just help out and take some of that extra stress off of my husband's back. So I had somebody that came to me. My whole Plexus story started with that Etsy shop, because somebody bought something off of me, and they're like, hey, I saw that you had posted about your daughter's allergies. You could try my probiotic. And then they mentioned Plexus, and the eyes rolled as far as they could back into my head, because that was something that I was never, ever going to do either. I went to the health food store. I was a probiotic snob at this point. I thought that I knew everything that I needed to know about health and where we were going. And so I ordered the BioCleanse and the probiotic, and this was 7 years ago. I did not know how to turn off my auto subscription. I did not know what I was doing. God love my sponsor, but they did not know what they were doing either. And so there was not a lot of follow up, right? And so I quit. I called the company and I said, I do not want to be on a subscription. I do not want to do any of this stuff. And the product sat in my shelf for about 6 months. I didn't do anything with it. And so my first thing to you is you can all think of those people, right? They join your team and it's like, they're going to be my next diamond. They're going to go all the way. And 2 weeks later, the aliens have abducted them. They're in the Plexus Witness Protection Program. They're not coming out. They're not answering your messages. Y'all, that was me. Okay. Don't you dare ever, ever, ever write off anyone. Because if you keep adding value to them, if you keep loving on them, or in my case, they're just going to hit their rock bottom and they're already going to have an account and they're going to order again and they're going to come back, right? That's what happened to me. 6 months later, we had hit rock bottom. I knew that I needed to do something. I was a math teacher, and so I did the numbers. I knew that if I paid the $40, that's what it was. So when people are like, there's not enough discounts, I'm like, there was never a discount. If you've been here long enough, we never had discounts, nothing. I had no money to do this, but I needed it. And so I found the value in it, right? So joined for $40, ended up doing it as the ambassador because that was the cheapest way. I had no idea. No one was telling me what was in it with the ambassador piece of it, what I could do with it. But I knew that my mom needed it, my sister-in-law needed it, and I had another friend. And some of y'all have probably heard me say this before if you've listened to my story, but the first time that I got a "You've Got Money" email and I saw the amount in there, I literally thought that there was a mistake. Like they paid me the wrong amount, but there was no way. And this sounds terrible. I wasn't going to call up Alec and Tarl and be like, hey, gave me too much money, because I really needed it, right? It lifted stress from us. But that was the catalyst for me. I started looking at the compensation plan. I wanted to know how I could maximize it. I wanted to know what ended up happening to be able to get to the next space. I love the questions. You guys can drop this in anything that you have. So what triggered me to start taking them out of the cabinet? We kept going one thing after another. Our health was just a snowball. At that point, I had been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, celiac disease, and Hashimoto's. I was having optical migraines where I would lose my vision. And my daughter, Riley, kept going with her allergies. By the time she was 5, she had over 40 intolerances. And so I knew that we needed something different. We had to change. And so I'm kind of a dork when it comes to science and ingredients. And so I had looked up a couple of things, and the things that I found, I remembered were in our ProBio 5. And so I had just kind of happened to come back into it, but it was because I hit my version of rock bottom. And I want y'all to remember that sometimes when we're looking at other people, we think, man, I don't understand why they don't see this. Everybody has rose-colored glasses, right? The version of the story that we're seeing is different than the version of the story that they're seeing. And things, you guys are going to learn I'm a complete squirrel. I actually messaged Andrea right before this, like, this is a perfect call. I can just get on and talk because my mind goes every which way. But when we see things through other people's lenses, it changes, right? And we have to remember that. The way that social selling was even a year, 2 years ago before COVID, it was completely different than it is now, right? We used to hear like from 5 to 12 meaningful exposures. And I'm not telling y'all this to scare you off, but now it's more like 15 to 19 meaningful exposures. Now, that's not a bad thing. The social industry has completely changed. 80% of people actually want, there's new exit polls. I don't know who they are that do these, but I was just reading about one of these, that 80% of people now want to buy from their friends. They would rather buy from a link than go to a store. That's incredible news for us, right? Own that. I love where we are at with this. But it does mean that we need to be adding more value because they can go anywhere to get things. And so you keep adding that value to people over and over and over again. And when they hit their version of rock bottom, they will come back. Those of you that have been here long enough, you're probably seeing this trend already, because so many people that quit before have been coming back in the last couple of months. I wasn't really seeing other people's stories posting on Facebook. I literally, Christy, I had no idea what it was until after I started thinking that this could be more for me. And then I sought out every single thing. Like Andrea was in one of the very first Diamonds in December series I watched. I wanted to soak up every single thing that I could. And that's why with my team now, I am huge with them. Don't you dare, no matter what you think somebody is going to do or not do with this business, you put them in a 3-way chat and you get them in your team page. Do not let your own insecurities bar you from doing those things with your people, because they're missing out on a huge, huge component of this. I mean, I wasn't in a team page. I started my own team page, and it was my mom, my sister-in-law, who I kind of forced into buying the products, my mom, who doesn't get on Facebook, and myself. And I was like, I got a team page. Let's go. Like, I was so excited to be able to do it, but also really still skeptical. And that's a whole other part of my story. But just that's where I was. So I went from not having a lot of people on Facebook, living in a super small town, thinking that that's why I couldn't do this, because there wasn't a lot of people around. In 18 months, we were an Emerald team. I was in my back office. I lived in my back office. It's one of my top tips. Like, if you are avoiding your back office, find out why you are avoiding your back office and start living there. You need to know your people. You need to know who's adding. You need to know who's ordering and not ordering. Don't be scared away by that. But then I'm also very real about this part. I hit Emerald and I did not know how to lead. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. It was something that just kind of snowballed for me. Ended up being an Emerald ambassador without really doing any coaching, without really doing any kind of personal growth work. And everything just kept compounding for me after that, because I didn't know how to lead and didn't know how to kind of step up. My ego let me start diving into other areas. I love, like Andrea said, I love doing graphics. I love doing all of that stuff. And so it was really easy for me to then start living in my strengths, completely living in my strengths, and avoiding all of the other stuff. You will never, ever, ever hear me say that you need to perfect your weaknesses. Okay. You do not. That's why we have sideline sisters. That's why we have other people that we can pull from. There are some areas that I will never find good strengths in. I mean, we're in a group chat together, and I think about this all the time. I don't know, Andrea, how many of those are in there? 6, 5, I guess. We're all completely different, all have very different strengths. And I love being able to go in there, because the way that I think about things, completely different than Andrea, completely different than some of the other people that are in there. And so I don't have to perfect my weaknesses. I can pull from them to give me different perspective. It is so important in a business like this to be able to do that from people. However, there are some areas of your business that you cannot avoid if you want to be able to grow. And one of them is being able to lead, and to be able to lead with vision. And that's what I really want to talk to you guys about today. And then we'll kind of open it up for any kind of discussion that you guys want at the end, or any questions that you have. But right now, wherever you're at, if you have a pen and paper, or if you just work better when you close your eyes, I just want you to ask yourself, what are you here for? If you were to think about designing your perfect day, and I know automatically when people ask that question, it's like, but I've got 3 kids that are in, and this is a reality for me right now. I've got 3 kids in 7 different sports, like trying to keep up with their schedules, right? I've got all of this stuff. My husband's shifting over with farm transition thing. Like, we can all name it. So we start and we think, okay, this is my perfect day, but I don't want you to think about the but right now. I want you to release all of that. If I could wake up tomorrow and this would be my perfect day, what would it be? As adults, we stop dreaming. Okay. The last time that somebody asked us what we really wanted to be for a lot of us is when we were less than 13, 14, 15 years old. Because we've already at that point started into this trajectory of like, oh, she's going to go to college. She's going to be this. And we start settling into this path. And then we get in the real world and all the things start hitting us, right? We have the responsibilities. We have all the things that we have to do. And we've stopped dreaming and we stopped celebrating dreaming. I just want you to dream really big right now with me. And even after we get off this call, what do you want in your life? If money and time were not an option, would you still be doing what you're currently doing? Some of you are still going to 9-to-5 jobs. Maybe you love them. It can still be part of your day. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want out of it. Maybe the house that you're living in right now isn't something that's currently set up for your needs and you would love to have something different, but you just don't feel like that's an option. Maybe you would be able to tithe more, give back more, volunteer more. What is it for you that you have for that dream on your heart? And then I want you to ask yourself, if I repeated the last week of my life, working my business, pouring into relationships, posting on social media, whatever that looks like for you, would that dream that you have on your heart become a reality? And for some of us, it's going to be a wake-up call, right? It is the literal definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And some of us, that's what we're doing. We are literally standing on the outside of Plexus corporate offices and asking them to give us a paycheck when we are not showing up and actually opening up the door. Get real with yourself about that. This is an opportunity where you can make anything that you want come true. I am proof of that. I went from being an absolute skeptic with no experience in network marketing, not having any belief in it, and being able to build. Why? Not because I'm any different than you. Not because I'm any more special than you, not because my story is bigger than yours, but because I simply decided to fail forward and I continue to fail forward every single day. You have the same opportunity. So if the last week of your life, if you take an honest account of that, did you show up to earn a paycheck? Because that's what this is. The amount that you are getting paid right now is the amount of impact you have made. That completely switches it for me. If my paycheck is dropping, my impact is dropping. If my paycheck is rising and I'm getting a raise, my impact is raising. The amount that I'm able to do for others is raising along with it. It's a direct correlation. You have to be willing to show up for the moments, right? Ask yourself, would I pay me? I mean, we all want to be like, yeah, I would. I for sure would pay myself. I'd give myself 7 figures. But be real with yourself. Because here's the deal. That but that you have after that dream, we should ourselves to death. And when I say that, I'm like, that sounds real bad if I say it too fast. Should, SHOULD, and but ourselves to death. Well, I was going to work for 30 minutes, but one of my kids needed me. And I was going to send this message, but I'll do it later. What's behind your but? The next time that you go to sit, that sounds bad too. I'm full of really good liners today, guys. Stay with me. What is the thing that's keeping you from doing the things that you're supposed to be doing? I don't want you to ignore it anymore. I want you to get real with yourself while you're doing it. If you go to sit down right now, everybody do this. Think about a person that you have not messaged yet. Who's your dream teamer? Who's somebody that you need to follow up with? And I want you to write their name down. And then ask yourself, why have I not messaged that? We all have them. 7 years in, I still have them. And I do this with myself every single day. Why haven't I messaged that person? Be honest. Are you worried about what they're going to think about you? Okay, then we can deal with it. Was somebody mean to you in the past? Okay, let's deal with it. If you are not willing to step outside your comfort zones, you will not get to that dream that you have on your heart. That's what this comes down to. It's personal growth, and it's diving into the hard stuff. The basis of this business could not get any more simple. It really could not. From the same device that you're watching this on or listening to this on, you can make more money than a brain surgeon while you're wearing yoga pants. Like, stop and think about that. And yet we're so worried and so caught in our minds sometimes that our post isn't going to sound perfect or that our message isn't going to be received the right way. It's never going to be received if we don't post it and we don't message it. You have a gift, and if you do not message that person, you're robbing them of it. Flip the script in your mind. This is no longer about you. It's about who you can impact and then what you get back in return. And when I started thinking, how dare me keep this to myself, it changed everything for me. So the next time that you go into that message, the next time that you go to put up a post and you're worried about how it's going to be received, be more worried about how it's not going to be received by the people that need it the most, because there is somebody that's out there that's waiting for you. So a couple of things that I just jotted down that I want you guys to be self-reflective of today when you're starting to think about those goals and those dreams. Number one, who do you have for accountability? And I'm sure that you guys have all heard this before. You are the sum of the people that you hang around with the most. What were your last 3 conversations like outside of Plexus, within Plexus? If you have a sideline sister that you're going to all the time, or brother, or whoever it is, that you're going to all the time, and you're like, oh my gosh, corporate didn't do this. Now, y'all, I know sometimes we need to vent, right? We have our people, but you better hope that those people don't let you stay there for long. If you're going to somebody to vent, it better be Alita Langford as this person for me. I can call her up and I'll be like, hey, I just need to get this off. And she'll be like, yep, you have 5 minutes, 5 minutes. You can say anything that you need to say in 5 minutes, but then we're solution-based and we're oriented towards the goal. And you know what? Most of the time, I don't need 5 minutes. I need 30 seconds. And as I'm saying it, I'm like, this is utterly ridiculous. This is the thing that I'm complaining about. Who is your accountability person? Who are you reaching out to? And if you're not telling somebody your goal and your dream, we need to investigate that. Get really curious around that. That goal and that dream that you have written down, does your upline know that? Does your sideline know that? And if not, why? Tina, I'm picking on you for a second because I adore you and I know you. But when I said, does your upline know that, you shook your head, right? And I know that there are other people too. Why? Why do they not know that? So that's my first challenge to you. That dream, that goal that you have written down, you message that person. Christy, I love this. How do you find an accountability partner? First step, because I can say this to this team, you have incredibly amazing uplines. Like, y'all, I've looked at your genealogy before and I'm like, please, I've even told Andrea, I'm like, adopt me, take me in. But that's the beauty, because they already have, right? We are one Plexus through and through and through. So message your upline. The other thing I encourage my team to do, go to the team page. Who's active? Who's liking stuff? Who's commenting on stuff? Who's doing the things that you want to emulate? Y'all, if your accountability partner doesn't even know what your team page name is, there's a problem with that, right? Find the people that are showing up. They are there. Can you have accountability in your downline? Yes. You do not ever, ever vent to a downline about anything, ever. Because guess what? It wrecks their mindset. You can vent up as long as you're not staying there. Do not vent to the side and do not vent down. Top tip with that. You will wreck the culture of your team quicker than any other thing you can do. Okay. All right. So who's your accountability? Number 2, we talked about this just a little bit. What are you offloading and what are you delegating? I will give you an example of this because we've said it before. I love graphics. I love house design. I love things that are simple and clean. I don't love bright colors. I said it. So here's the thing. I would take, I hyper focused on graphics for so long. Guess what I did to my team in doing that? No one ever felt like they could do it good enough. What are you offloading and what are you delegating? And what are the expectations? It matters to people. Are you doing things in a duplicatable way that somebody can show up and feel like they can plug into? I still love graphics, but now you know what our shout outs are on our team page? They literally take their profile picture and they say, welcome to the team. And it's the best thing ever because who can duplicate that? Everyone. Live in your strengths, pull from other people, but know what? If you can't do it, it's okay to ask for help. It's a huge, huge piece of this. You want things that your team can do along with you, not that's going to stifle their growth. 99% of people hate graphics and don't want to make them. So don't make it impossible for them to succeed. Okay. So what are you offloading? What are you delegating? Live in your strengths and find those people that you can pull from. Next one. This is one that I want to spend a little bit of time in. What is your belief? 3 things. Belief in network marketing, belief in yourself, and belief in Plexus as a company and products. And I want you to do this today. Take some real time to dive into this. On a scale of 0 to 10, where would you rate yourself? If you are honest with yourself and you find yourself at like a 3 or 4 or 5 in network marketing, you will never be able to create leaders that have more belief in that, right? You're going to hit that lid. You've got to raise your belief lid to be able to get there. The beautiful part about this is that you can 100% grow in every single one of those areas. Videos, podcasts, going to YouTube, finding some of your favorite jewels, going to their YouTube. Who are you following? What are you diving into? Belief can be built, but it cannot stay stagnant. If you want that dream that you have on your heart to keep growing and to become a reality, you cannot stay stuck in the area of belief. And you have to have a vision, right? Without vision, people perish. If your team does not know where you're headed, they will not go with you. This is something I'll be completely vulnerably honest with you. I've struggled with this. Right after we hit Diamond, I had a couple of people, and it's hard when you live in the public spotlight with this. It's the voice of one, right? And sometimes the voice of one is not the right one that we should be following. Everybody get what I'm throwing down there, right? We cannot let the squeaky wheel be the loudest voice that we hear. And right after I hit Diamond, it was for me. Somebody told me that I was selfish and that I was only helping people because I wanted to get where I wanted to be. And it started to wreck with my mindset. And I struggled with it for the longest time. And so, you know what I started doing? I stopped telling people about the vision because I thought that then people would only think that I was doing it for selfish reasons. You know what happened to my team? They started falling off because they had no idea what we were working for. And so often, as people are building belief in themselves for this, they have to have your belief to carry them. And if you're not sharing that with people, where else are they going to get it? They didn't join Andrea. They didn't join Becky. They didn't join Ellen. They joined you. Community, super important. But if you are not spreading that consistency and that belief and that vision to them, they're not going to know where to go. Are you telling them from the very beginning, your first interactions with them, y'all, whether they're joining you for the products or not, you are teaching them how to do this business? What are you telling them? Are you sharing with them how amazing Plexus is? Are you getting them involved in the calls? Have you, as every single person on your team this month, been messaged that they can get $300 for fast starting silver and $150 for Lululemon? Y'all, belief starts small and it grows from there. You see one piece of the staircase. You see the step that's in front of you. They don't need to know how to get to diamond tomorrow. They need to know how to get their first 3 people. That builds their belief first. I had a girl that messaged me this morning and she was like, hey, I've got to hold off on ordering my products. I hit a deer over the weekend. I need to use the money for the deductible and I've got a wedding to pay for. Bri 6 years ago would have been like, oh, that's okay. When you have the money, we'll help you get ordered. What's the belief in that? There is none. It says we don't have a compensation plan and the products aren't worth finding out how to get them. Instead, do you know what I said to her this morning? Girl, I don't ever want finances to be a problem for you in this. I am a hey girl person. If you are not a hey girl person, do not say that, but I am. So I messaged her back and I just said, I don't want this to ever be an issue for you for finances. You have a wedding coming up. Grab the 3 people that are in your wedding party. Let's get you $300 back and $150 for Lululemon. She messaged me 10 names within 15 minutes. I didn't say the word silver. I didn't tell her that she had to do anything. I didn't talk to her about putting up a first post. I didn't tell her she had to start messaging these people. It is the first step in the staircase, but I'm building the belief in her already. Do I know if she wanted to, if she put this in, could she be a diamond someday? 1000%. Did I say that to her? No, because it'd scare the crap out of her. She doesn't want that yet. So what are you doing for people to build the belief, and what are you doing to cast the vision? That's your job here. If you think back to the first time that you started this, I had no belief at that point in time when I got that very first paycheck that diamond was on the radar for me, because I didn't even know what diamond was. But you better bet over time, I knew that I could do it because the belief was built. That's what people need from you. Get in your team pages. Are you emulating the things that you want people to do? If you could design your perfect ambassador, and if you haven't done this yet, if you haven't done this exercise as a team, it's really, really interesting. Design your perfect Plexus ambassador. How do they show up? How do they post? Are they getting on team calls? Are they active in team chats? Are they in the team pages? What kind of leadership qualities do they have? And be real with yourself. Are you that person? Have you been in your pages in the last couple of days? Do you show up just to check off a box? The things that you do every single day, it matters more than you know. The consistency piece, it matters. My team knows every single Monday night for the last 7 years, we have done a team call. They know where to find me because I've set up those boundaries. They also know on Wednesday night, don't message me. I'm on a date night with my husband because my kids are at church and it's a built-in babysitter for me. They know because I've set those things up. Set up the way you want to work your business. But you cannot be unplugged and stand outside the door anymore and think that those dreams and those goals that you have are going to be able to become a reality, because it's not going to happen. And what ends up happening You spin that hamster wheel, and then all those fear stories that you have in your mind about not being good enough, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You're scared to put up a post, you don't put up the post, and then at night you go to bed and you're worried because your team didn't grow. You didn't have the chance to fail because you didn't go after the dream. How often are you sitting on the sidelines just waiting for something to happen? And then somebody goes flying by you and you want what they have. Stop waiting. There will be times, and we'll open it up for discussion after this. Oh, one more thing before I tell you the story. 4 pillars. And I want you to be really reflective of this. And I'm sure that you guys do this on your team, but I want you to write these down. 4 pillars, right? It all starts with mindset, recruiting, retention, duplication, and leadership. Wherever you are at right now, I will never make the assumption that every single person on here wants to be a diamond ambassador someday or a jewel ambassador someday. Whatever you want, maybe that's ruby, maybe that's senior ruby, maybe it's senior gold, whatever it is, you will not get there if you don't have those 4 pillars. And if you feel like you are lacking in some area, and a really good way to tell this, my team, we're doing this right now. We've been following the same we've been following the same system for recruiting for the last 4 months. All of our new people are catching on to it really, really quickly. I was doing a coaching call on Friday and a girl came to me and she was like, we added this many people 2 months ago, but last month my points dropped by 10 points. What's going on? Automatically, the pillar is retention, right? If you're adding people and your points are not going up or they're staying the same, you know that's the pillar that you've got to focus in on. Ask yourself that and dive into that on your next coaching call. Those 4 pillars, if you're not recruiting, you can't retain, right? And if you're not retaining, you can't duplicate. And then there's no room for leadership if you're not able to do those things. Every single thing that I've found in my business comes back to the mindset piece, and it comes back to those four pillars. If one of them falls, the whole house falls. And the beautiful part of that is that you can dive in at any point in time to those things. There's so many training videos now for y'all. Okay, before we open it up, I just want to share this story with you. It's not something that I've ever posted about publicly because it's still something that's really raw for our family. But I want to encourage you with this because, y'all, there are so many times, I still get emotional talking about this. There are so many times that you're going to want to quit. There are so many times you're going to get to the end of the day and you're exhausted and you know that you need to plug in, but you just want to go to bed. Or instead of training in or tuning into the latest training video, you want to watch TikToks for 30 minutes because it just allows you to some release, right? There is always going to be an option and a choice for you. You will never hear me say that you need to forget about self-care. You always need the self-care piece. There are going to be times in your business where you need to sit back and relax, but you cannot be choosing that option all the time. There were so many times in my business when I wanted to quit because somebody would say something and it would hurt my heart, or I just felt tired and exhausted at the end of the day. But the thing that I kept coming back to was the dream. I wanted to be able to have this space for our small town, for my kids to be able to have their kids here or their friends here. I wanted to be able to create more, to be able to give back. I wanted to volunteer time and do things for our little league and do things for our community that I could not do prior to Plexus. We did not have the means to do it. And I didn't have the health to do it. There were so many nights where I am so thankful now that I chose to plug in. In the middle of COVID, when all of that stuff started happening, dairy farming tanked. People weren't going to schools. There was not restaurants. We were not making ends meet at all on the farm. And my sweet husband is the 6th generation in his dairy farm. It's something that he loves. It's his passion. We live on 700 acres in the middle of nowhere. This is his legacy. It's the only thing that he's ever known. When dairy prices started tanking, we had to make the choice to sell our dairy cows. It was crushing for our family. My kids, it's all they have ever known. I cannot imagine in the middle of making those choices, had I lost my husband to going to a 9-to-5 job because we didn't have the means to support ourselves. If my kids would have had to go through that transition, if he would have had the added stress, instead, because as a family, we chose to bound together and in those hard moments grow a business with Plexus, we never had to make those choices. We were able to go through a really hard season in a family without any financial stress of what's going to happen. Y'all, that never would have occurred to us. I would have had to go back to work. My husband would have had to go to find a different job. Instead, in that hard season, we put an in-ground pool in. I don't say that to brag. I say that because we completely had a cash flow. I get off of meetings, y'all, in the summer now. And I mean, if you follow me on social media, I always have people in my house. It is nothing on a weekend to have 10 extra kids camping in my living room. I get off of Plexus calls in the summer and literally extra kids are out in my pool. Y'all, we don't live in a space where kids just walk. Like parents are able to just come and drop them off. Why am I telling you this? It's not about the pool. It's not about the money. It's about the things that you're able to do and give back because you plugged in. Don't you dare ever think. I had people that told me like, oh, when your family hits diamond, you guys want a pool? That's great. It is great for us because that's our dream. That's how we wanted to minister. That's how we want to be able to give back. That dream that you wrote down at the beginning of this, y'all, it's worth it. Because if it impacts your family and it impacts the people around you, don't you dare ever think that it is too small. And I want you to print it out. I want you to put it where you see it. And I want you to have a dream that matches every single rank that you go through. Some of them might not sound much. When we hit gold, we wanted to go mini golfing and ice cream as a family. Looking back on it now, I'm like, oh, that was cute. Y'all, that was everything then. Because it was time together. And my kids knew. You know, if I said, hey, mommy's got a call right now, I just need to plug into this. They knew why, because they were clued in on it. They went pool shopping with us way before we were ever diamond because they were so excited about it. That dream that you have, keep growing it. And when you feel like you don't want to plug in anymore, you go back to it. It will make you show up in the hard moments and stay consistent. Okay. Questions? I was a teacher, so I'm good with long, awkward pauses too.
Okay, I have a question about accountability. You made me all emotional and I'm on that last part. But I wrote a question when you were talking about accountability. Having accountability partner, that is not one I have ever had with somebody. And a lot of people have mentioned it before. What does that entail? What is my role in having an accountability partner? What is their role in an accountability partner? Not like, hey, you got this girl, but is it check in on them? Like, hey, did you reach out to those 5 people you said you were going to do? Like, what does that entail?
I love that question. I think that it honestly can be anything that you want it to be, but mostly what you need it to be, right? So I think the key in having an accountability partner is number one, you've got to mesh with them. I've had accountability partners and I've actually chose to just like cut off from it because all they wanted to do was complain and that's not going to get me anywhere, right? So number one, take an honest account of the person that you're surrounding yourself with. Same thing, go into the team page, who's showing up, who's on this call right now that you can reach out to. And then go through, I think that you guys probably have this too. It's the winning, Andrea, do you guys have that winning day, the gold sheet? Is that what you guys use? Whatever your sheet is for a winning day, that's what my accountability partner and I do every single day with each other. Well, 5 days a week, because I'm very big on taking 2 days off. But going down through, checking those things off together. Did you put up your post today? What are you struggling with today? How can I help you? Who's the person that you need to message that you're avoiding? Okay, I'm going to give you 24 hours and then I'm going to check in with you. Because if you know, it's like going to the gym, right? Or telling somebody that you need help drinking your water. It's like every other thing in life. As soon as you voice it, it becomes real and you're going to start doing it. Especially if you know somebody's going to be checking in on you and caring for you in that.
Bri, will you touch on just a smidge about the fact that your direct upline is not, although delightful and you appreciate her introducing you to Plexus, is maybe not quite as plugged in and focused on 5 levels of leadership like you would be, and why maybe that was so important for you? Is it because you would never say anything negative about her, but just maybe this, like being that accountability partner isn't important to her, and so you going and finding those people was really important?
This was a huge part of my story, because for a long time, quite honestly and vulnerably, I really struggled with this. Because you think of, especially, maybe this is just a mindset thing for me, but in network marketing, it's like, oh, well, my upline should help me with this. Like they should be helping me with posts and keeping me accountable and in my back office and explaining things. Y'all, if you struggle with that, first of all, it's okay to be there. It's not okay to stay there. So I really had to flip my mindset around this. My upline does not owe me a thing. My sidelines do not owe me a thing. My downline does not owe me a thing. I owe me everything, right? And the beauty of this is that it has nothing to do, especially in Plexus. There are some companies, y'all, where I would not have been able to rank unless my upline ranked. Okay. This is a huge thing. If you've never looked at other companies' comp plans, I'm not saying that you need to go out and start looking at them, but there are huge shifts in comp plans where if your upline is not holding rank, you tap out. So like if they're at senior gold, you can never go above senior gold. There was a time in my business where I had outranked 7 levels above me because there were that many people that had not shared and just kind of like fallen off and all the things. And at first it wrecked me for a little bit because I felt like, well, I don't have the systems and I don't know where to plug into things and I can't do this and I can't do that. It makes no difference whatsoever. There are so many people that are in that same boat. And so if you're there, I really encourage you that's why those sideline relationships are so important. My absolute best friends are from this company and not on my team now. I mean, people that we travel together, we go across the country to visit each other, not on my team whatsoever. And it's a huge blessing. Does it impact your mindset sometimes? Sure. But same thing again, right? You do not have to stay there. And whatever you're willing to grow through is where you will go. I could have let that stop me. You could let that stop you, or you can grow through it. Right. And so that was a big part of my story at the beginning, that I didn't have all of that extra stuff. But same thing, my team didn't join them. Right. The people that joined me did not join them. They joined me. And how I chose to show up was really, really important. And you will find those people that are like-minded that want to go with you. I think now it's kind of a big blessing. My team knows, same thing. I'll never say anything negative about her. It just wasn't her story, right? It wasn't something that she wanted to do. And if she didn't want to do it, I don't want her doing it. Same with my downline. If they're not into this, I don't want them just sharing their link and signing people up and not doing the follow-up piece of it. And so that to me was a huge blessing with my team, because they got to see that. They got to see us rise up and do so many different things that normally would not have been able to do if that mindset piece would have kept us there. Yeah, I'll share our recruiting system with you guys for sure. I mean, it's super, super basic. It's 2 different scripts. It's the same thing, again, because I want the duplication piece of it. I think the biggest disservice that we can do to our teams is feeding our ego, thinking that we have to know all of the answers all of the time for everything. The second that we start talking about all the science and ingredient, I love science and ingredients. I don't mention it to anybody anymore unless they ask me, because most people don't care, right? Most people just want to feel better. And so if I can't create a message that somebody can copy and paste to somebody else and work smarter, not harder, then I don't want my team doing it. And so if I'm showing up in a message telling them 92 ingredients in our products and that it's going to fix candida and do all the extra things, they're never going to feel like they can duplicate that. So super simple, always back to basics. But yeah, I'd 100% share it. And I'm sure that it's similar. I'll send it to Andrea first and make sure, because that's something I'm sure that you guys have recruiting systems. Stick to the basics, y'all. I will say this, even before I send anything over like that, guys, you can say the same thing to 100 people. You know this, right? And if you don't, I just want to encourage you with this. If I message, oh, sweet Sarah, I love seeing your face on here. If I message Sarah and I say the same thing to her, she does not know, Susan, when I message Susan, does not know that I just sent the same message to Sarah, right? It can get a little bit repetitive sometimes because you're like, man, I should probably switch up what I'm doing. But no, don't switch it up. It's not going to work for 100% of the people, because 100% of the people are not going to be ready to have it work for them. But that doesn't mean that your system is failing, right? It just means that they haven't had the touches yet. Keep it super simple. And we stick everybody in three-way messages because we want that accountability and we want them to see the community. 1000%. I think I love that. There's no magic message, right? There's no perfect way to do this, y'all. There really isn't. There's no magic recipe that somebody's keeping from you. I used to think that. I think that that's why it bothered me when I was like, oh man, but I don't have an upline to help me do this stuff. And now I'm never going to learn exactly what to do. There's not an exactly what to do. It's just showing up. And it's adding value to people. Where are you adding value? Because then people are going to want you to lead them. And when they want to be led by you, they're going to want to do the things that you're doing.
I am so excited. And we are going to wrap up so that we're not going over on Brianne's time. But y'all, if y'all got something out of this, if you feel like a light bulb went off, or there's some things you need to like sit down and think about and journal about, I would love for you to write that in the chat. It's always nice when you take an hour away from your team and your family to love on someone else's team and coach and train, to know that it resonated, that it did anything, that there's like little marks along the way. I think we actually do not run our businesses without having marks of Brianne along the way, whether you know them. She'll never put her name on anything. You'll never know it's her. She loves sharing it. I think one of the really important things is that how much did you hear in her story, how much she learned and was willing to grow. Like, I need to get here and I can't get here unless I grow through this hurdle, unless I actually figure out how to get over this. And it's not my upline's responsibility to help me figure it out. It's not even my sideline's responsibility or my downline. It literally is my responsibility to figure out I'm stuck. I have a mindset thing. I need to get over that because it's the only way I can get here. And constantly lifting a leadership lid is just incredible. So Brianne, thank you so much for taking an hour. Thank you so much for pouring in. I have 3 pages of notes, things starred that I need to go back to myself in my own business. That right there shows you that there is so much content and so much to learn and grow from each other. So thank you, sweet friend. And I will see all of y'all later. Don't forget, tonight is Motivation Monday by Corporate. So you want to jump on that. If you have the ability, put it on your calendar. And then tomorrow night we have training. So if you new ambassador training, how to train to get on all these calls, what to know what the next step is, all of that stuff. So you're going to want to put that on your calendar as well. Don't get off this call without putting the next thing on your calendar to show up for. We will talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.